In this lecture, I will walk you through the simple software setup that is required for this course. By the end of it, you should have the Java version 8 installed on your machine and also the Eclipse IDE, which is one of the most popular IDEs in the Java and open source world. To work with me in parallel, download this developer tools setup from the contents of this lecture. Copy this first link using which we are going to download and install the JDK. If you already have a JDK, you can ignore this step. If not, copy this URL, go to your browser, paste it, and we'll go to the Oracle's JDK 8 page, wherein you will see the different versions of JDK that are available. JDK for Windows 64, JDK for Linux, JDK for Mac, so on and so forth. So download the appropriate version. To do that, you will have to accept the license agreement to start with and then click on the version you want to download. For Windows, it is very straightforward. Once you download this exe, double click on the exe and just follow the screens. For other operating systems as well, for Mac, it is also straightforward. Just download the DMG and double click on it and you will grab it into your applications. And once you have JDK setup, it's very easy to install the Eclipse IDE. Copy this link, go to your browser, paste it again, and it will take you to the Eclipse downloads page. You can grab the latest version of Eclipse. I am using Eclipse Mars. Right now they have Neon package, which is okay to use, so you can download that as well. And on the right, if you see, they have the different operating systems listed out, so you can click on your respective operating system that you have on your machine and download the latest Eclipse for your machine. And make sure that you are downloading Eclipse IDE for Java EE developers. Once you have downloaded Eclipse, depending on our operating system, if it's Windows, you will unzip the contents and then you will have a shortcut like this. To launch Eclipse, click on that shortcut and choose a workspace. This is where all our projects, Java projects that we'll be creating will be saved. This could be your C drive, D drive, or any other folder on your machine. Mine is a Mac, so I have pointed it to this particular location. Hit OK once you choose the workspace. That will launch Eclipse and take us to the Eclipse dashboard. If you have any issues at any point, make sure that you have Java on your path. If you copy this link and paste it in your web browser, you will find instructions to set the path variable to make sure that you have Java on your path. If your Eclipse is not starting up, do go through this troubleshooting section. Make sure the path variable is set and also make sure that the Java home is set. Here I will introduce you to what unit testing is and why we need it. Unit testing is where we test our code at a unit or class level. That is, we test all the public methods on a class. We do this by providing the different types of values or parameters and see if the method behaves as expected, both positive as well as the exception scenarios. Let's consider an order processing application wherein we have the order processor class with two methods in it. One which creates an order, and to test this create order method, we'll be passing in different data inside the order object and see if it returns the integer order ID back as expected. Similarly, we have the second method called cancel order, which throws a business exception if the order we are trying to cancel is not already present. To test this method, we'll pass in a invalid order ID and we'll see if it throws the expected exception back. In the object-oriented world or the Java EE world, we will not put all our code in one single order processor class. Our application is usually divided into layers wherein one class depends on another class. So the order processor will call into an order service which will host the business logic, which in turn can call into a order data access object which takes care of all the CRUD work connecting to the database and all that. Now to unit test the order processor class, we will not be going all the way to the service, the DAO and then the database. Then it will become an integration test. To unit test the order processor, we will be mocking out the order service. Similarly, if we are unit testing the order service, we will be mocking out the order DAO. And if we are unit testing the order DAO, we will be mocking out all the JDBC API calls or even the Hibernate calls depending on what you are using for your database access. The idea is that each layer is unit tested on its own and it works as expected. Due to this, there are several advantages of unit testing, starting with great quality. When we write unit tests, we will catch defects right during development, and the number of defects that are caught during the testing phase or even in production will go down, improving the quality of any product. Since we mock out all the dependencies and test the unit or a class on its own, the tests run very fast and give instant feedback. This is because there is no database call or web service call. We'll be mocking out all those calls. We can run these tests right out of IDEs like Eclipse without any additional setup. Last but not the least, over time, as we write these great unit tests, they will become a regression suite. That is, if we or some other developer is changing or making a small change to a part of an application or product, he can update the current unit tests as well as he can run all the unit tests for the product to ensure that he didn't break, because of his change, he didn't break another part of the application. JUnit is an easy way to unit test or write unit tests, and Mockito complements it by mocking out all the dependencies we need. We'll learn JUnit and Mockito in the first and second half of this course. From this lecture, you will learn what a unit testing framework is and why JUnit is so popular. Any unit testing framework gives us three things. That is, number one, an easy to use API to write unit tests. Two, different ways to compare or assert the actual results that are returned from the methods and the results we are expecting. Thirdly, a way to run and report out the results, both the success as well as the failures, in a developer-friendly fashion. JUnit provides these three. Starting with JUnit 3, we had to extend a test case class. All our test classes should extend a test case class, and all the methods should follow a naming convention, certain naming convention, for it to work. But JUnit 4 removes all that and makes our job a lot easier by providing easy to use annotations. The first annotation is the test annotation, which we use to mark each and every test method with. The @before annotation is used to mark our setup methods, wherein we will be creating all the objects that we need for our test, and all the data that we want to set up for a particular test, we'll put that in a method and mark that method with the @before annotation. Any method that is marked with @before annotation will be run before each test method that we write in a test class. Similarly, any method that we mark with the @after annotation will be run after every test method. So we'll be doing all the setup in the methods marked with @before and the cleanup in the methods marked with @after, so that every test method will have clean data or objects. As the name itself says, the @before class annotation, if we mark a method with this annotation, that method will be run only once for the entire test class, right at the beginning. Last, I don't recommend using this annotation, but if you mark your tests with this annotation, those tests will be ignored when you run them from your IDEs or when you run them from your build tools like Maven or Ant. Those tests will be ignored. JUnit also provides easy to use static methods in the assert class, which we can use to assert the expected results versus the actual results that come back from the methods. For example, the assert not null will take an object, and if that object is null, that assertion will fail right there and our test will also fail. Similarly, the assert equals checks for the values of two objects. The assert same checks for the references of two objects. There are several other assertion methods in the assert API which you can play around with to compare the actual results versus the expected results. Finally, a way to run our tests and report the results. JUnit provides a block JUnit4 class runner, which is very easy to use. We run this from command line, pass our test classes as a command line argument to this class, and this class will scan through our test classes for the annotations, like the test annotation, at before annotation, run all the setup and cleanup methods, and run all our test methods, and it will report out the results of all the tests that have passed and failed. But we rarely touch this class. We run our tests either from IDEs like Eclipse and NetBeans, or we run our tests using build tools like Ant and Maven, which internally use this class. This is the default JUnit test runner. You can always extend this. For example, the Spring JUnit4 class runner extends this class and it implements the JUnit runner framework for writing integration tests while working with Spring-based applications. And the @run with annotation can be used to configure a runner when we run our tests. By default, it is this block JUnit4 class runner. So to summarize, JUnit4 provides a easy to use API to do three things which any JUnit testing framework will do: an easy to use API to write tests, then to assert the actual results and the expected results, and finally it runs our tests and reports out the results in a very developer friendly fashion. In this lecture you will write your first JUnit test. To do that, launch the Eclipse IDE, select a workspace. Once you are on the Eclipse dashboard, go to the file menu, say new Java project. Give your project a name. Let's call it Hello JUnit. Click Finish. By default, Eclipse creates only one source folder called SRC. We'll be creating another source folder by right-clicking on the project, say New Source Folder, name it Test. So this is the first step when we are doing test-driven development or when we are writing unit tests, which we always should. The first step is to create a source folder called Test, and we'll be placing all our test classes for the source code in SRC into the test folder. The requirement we have on hand is very simple. We need to create a greeting class which will have one public method which will take a name as input parameter, and it will return hello plus that name. Right click on the SRC folder, say new interface, call it greeting. Always go to interfaces. Select a package com.bharat.trainings.junit. You can give whatever package name you want. Hit finish. In this interface, we'll have one public method which is string greet. It takes a string as well, name. Let's create an implementation class. Right click on the package, say new class greeting impl. Click on the add button, type in greeting to select the interface for our class. Select it, hit OK, click on finish. We have the default implementation. Remove this to do line by hitting Ctrl D, and this method will simply return hello space plus the input parameter which is name. Now to test this method, we are going to write a test class, create a test class, create one test method which will assert for this result hello and then the name which we pass in. To create your first JUnit, right click on the implementation class, say new JUnit test case. If you don't see this option here, go to other and you will find it. Select the JUnit test case option. By default, Eclipse chooses your class name and it appends it with a test for your test class, which is a good convention. The package name is also same as the package name you have for your source class. The important piece here is the source folder. Instead of src, we'll change it to test, the new folder that we have created. Hit finish. Eclipse prompts you to add JUnit 4 library to your build path. Hit OK. Eclipse will add the JUnit 4 jar to your class path. So here is your test that Eclipse has generated. It has imported the static assert statements which we can use from the assert class. And there is one test method called test. Let's rename it. Let's call it greet should return a valid output. Give your tests very meaningful names so that any developer who reads through your test should understand what the test is exactly doing. It's a great way of documenting your code. Now, if I run this test by right clicking on this class, go to run as JUnit. Our test will fail. As you can see, this is the JUnit runner inside Eclipse, and the error we can see here in the failure trace. Under the failure trace, it says not yet implemented. This is coming from our fail method that we are calling here from the assert or the JUnit API. Hit Ctrl D, remove that fail method. Start writing our test by creating a new instance of our greeting impl. Assign this to greeting interface object greeting dot greet. Pass in JUnit as the parameter here. Assign this statement to a variable by hitting Ctrl 1. Assign statement to a new local variable. Let's call it result. Now let's assert. The first assert I am going to do is assert not null to see if this result is not null before we do any other assertions. The second and the last assert I am going to do here is to compare the results that are coming back with the results we are expecting. Assert equals result goes in as the second parameter, the actual goes in on the right. The expected is JUnit or hello JUnit. Now to rerun this test, we can right click here in the test window or the JUnit window and click run. So everything is green, we don't see any failure trace anymore. To make this test fail, I can simply remove this JUnit piece here, save it, rerun. It fails and the failure trace clearly shows us, if you double click on it, expected is hello, but actual what came back is hello JUnit. It's that simple to write a JUnit test. You create a test folder, right click on your implementation class, create new JUnit test case, then give your method a meaningful name and call the actual method under test by creating an instance of your class, and then use the assert statements to assert the actual results versus the return the results that you are expecting. In this lecture, you will learn how to test exception scenarios using JUnit. To do that, go to the greeting impl class and let's add a data validation logic or exception scenario in here, wherein we will throw a illegal argument exception if the name parameter, if it comes in as null or if it is blank, we are going to throw a illegal argument exception. So in here, start writing your if conditional statement. If name is equal to null or name dot length is equal to 0 then we will throw a new illegal argument exception. That's our exceptional scenario. Now to test this scenario, go back to our test class. We have left our test in a failure state. If we rerun this test, right click, say run as JUnit test. If you remember, we have left it in a failed state. It's always a good practice to leave it in a failed state, because when we come back, we know where we have left it. So let's fix it. This here should be hello JUnit. Right click in the JUnit view, run, the test passes. So now let's create a test for the exception scenario. We will start writing a new test by annotating at test. If you hit control space, you will get help. So you simply use that annotation, then write public void. All the test methods should be void, and we should always give them as meaningful name as possible. So let's say greet should throw an exception underscore for underscore name is null. So you can make them as meaningful as possible, as long as possible, because any developer who looks at this test will know what exactly this test is doing and how your code behaves. So it's a very good way, tests are a very good way to document your code as well. So in here, let's create an instance of the greeting. You can grab this piece from here. In the next lecture, I will show you how to reuse the instance across tests. For now, simply use the greeting impl, and then let's call greet. We are going to pass in null because we are going to test for the exception scenarios. Instead of asserting here to test for the exception, we are going to use JUnit4's powerful expected attribute. On the test annotation, there is an attribute called expected is equal to, this is where we can give the exception class expected expected, and then the illegal argument exception dot class. We need to tell JUnit what exception we are expecting when this test runs, and that's it. We are done. Simply right click, go to run as JUnit test, and both our tests have passed here. If you see now, there are two tests that ran. There is no guarantee for the order in which these tests are run, so never make any assumptions while you create your data or objects. As you can see here, our exceptional scenario test ran first, and then the first valid scenario test ran. Let's make this test fail by passing in a valid string in here. We pass in JUnit or any string for that matter, and try to rerun. If you want to just rerun this particular test method, you can right click on it and say run. So our exception scenario test fails, and it clearly shows why it has failed. Here, expected exception Java lang illegal argument exception, but that exception never was returned. So let's make it or turn it back green by passing in null. And now if you right click, run, or test passes again. So now we should also test for the blank scenario. We have only tested for the null scenario. It's always a good practice to write separate tests for each scenario, just like how we write methods to do only one thing. We should always also test only one thing. So we can rename this, and name is blank. So the very same test code, the only thing that changes is the name of the test method. And in here, instead of null, we are going to pass in blank string. Again, right click or right click on the class, or we can also run it from here, the play button, run as JUnit test. As you can see, everything is green. So it's that simple to test the exception scenarios. We mark our test methods with the test annotation, and we use the expected attribute on it to assert for the exception that we are expecting. In the JUnit framework introduction lecture, I have mentioned about the at before and at after annotations that can be used to mark the setup and cleanup methods or teardown methods that will be executed before each test method and after each test method respectively, so that we can set up all the objects or the data that we require for each test case in the setup method that is marked with at before, and we can clean up those objects and data in the method that is marked with the at after annotation. In this lecture, you will see those two in action. We will be refactoring our test class in here. So maximize it, go in here. Let's start with the at before annotation from the org.junit package. Type in a method public void setup. You can call it whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But from the earlier versions of JUnit, we had a naming convention where we had to call it setup. In this method, we will move this greeting creation to that method. You can just point your mouse pointer onto this line, hold the Alt key and press the up arrow. Now we'll split this and move this variable, or we'll make this greeting object a field. Place the mouse cursor on greeting, hit Ctrl 1, convert local variable to field, select that, and now our greeting is a field and we are creating the instance inside the setup method. We can remove it, the creation of instance, from the other two test methods. So place your mouse cursor on the greeting implementation creation line, hit Ctrl D, same for the other test method as well. So we are creating it in one single place in the setup method, which will be executed before each of these test methods. So this method, setup method, will run 3 times because we have 3 test methods in here. Now let's do the cleanup portion. We'll come up with the, let me add some lines so that you can see it clearly. So in here, at after, hit Control space, again after annotation from the JUnit API, public void, you can call it whatever you want, general practice, tear down, again from the earlier versions of JUnit, we call it tear down, you can call it cleanup or whatever you want. In here, in this scenario, we don't have much to do, simply take the greeting class instance, the global field, and make it null, which is very obvious, we need not do this. I just wanted to demonstrate how we should be using setup and tear down methods. As our tests grow in size, we'll be using setup and tear down in a better way. Let's add some system.out.println statements here, system.out.println, just to see the order in which these methods are executed. Let's put setup in here, copy this system.out.println, paste it in one of our tests, and also paste it in tear down. Now take the method name and replace the setup with that. Take the tear down method name, replace setup with that. You can also add system.out.println to other methods. Copy it again, go into the exceptional scenario test, take the method name, paste it. Let's also do it with the other test method. Why leave that alone? Paste it, take the method name, copy paste it. Now let's run this test. Run it, you can simply go here, run as JUnit test. Everything is green, that is not what we are looking for. If we look at the console for our system.out.println, you see that the setup gets called first, then one of the tests, we don't know in which order they get called, but the important thing is setup, then the test method, tear down, again the setup, again a test method and tear down, and so on. So that's the important thing. So in this lecture, you have learned how to use the at before and at after annotations to initialize any data that is required for each test and to clean up the data after execution of each test method. In this lecture, you will learn what mocking is, why we need it, and how it works. To mock means to mimic or to imitate. In day-to-day life, we do it to make fun of someone. But in the world of programming, we do it for very serious unit testing. If class A depends or uses class B, and if we are unit testing class A, then we will mock out class B and all the methods on class B that class A uses. The mock object will then take the place of the real object B. The idea of unit testing is to test our code without testing its dependencies. The theory is that each unit is tested on its own, and when they all are integrated, they will work great. Let's consider a Java EE example wherein we have the reservation controller, our UI component, calling into the reservation BO. So the reservation controller depends on the reservation BO, which hosts the business logic. Then the BO calls into a DAO, which does the database operations for us using JDBC, Hibernate, etc. Now, if we are testing the reservation controller, unit testing it, we will mock out the reservation BO and all the methods on the reservation BO which the reservation controllers methods are using, and test all the public methods on the reservation controller in isolation. Similarly, if we are testing the reservation BO, we will mock out the reservation DAO and all the method calls that the reservation BO's methods are making into the reservation DAO's methods, and test the public methods on reservation BO in isolation. Mocking involves three important steps: stubbing, setting the expectations, and then verifying. So we first stub out the reservation BO class or mock the reservation BO class and set the expectations on what the methods of the reservation BO should do when the reservation controller's unit tests are run. When the reservation controller's methods calls into the reservation BO's methods, we are going to tell what those methods or how those methods should behave using a mocking framework. Finally, we will verify using the mocking frameworks API, we will verify that the reservation controller is in fact calling into the methods of the reservation BO as we have expected. Those are the mocked out methods. Mockito is one popular mocking framework that provides us all these three. To stub and set expectations, we can either use annotations or there are static methods which we can use like mock, which will stub out the dependent objects for us. And then we can use the when method, the then return, then throw, and there are a lot of other methods which we can use to set the expectations or to stub out all the methods on the dependent classes. Finally, we can verify if the mocked out methods are being called by using verify, matchers, and so on. So to summarize, from this lecture, you have learned that mocking is where we test a unit in isolation, that is unit testing. Mocking enables it, or mocking complements unit testing by allowing us to mock out all the dependent classes and the methods that are used. We usually have three steps when we mock. One is stubbing out, then setting expectations and verifying it. Mockito is a very popular mocking framework that gives us the API to do those three, that is stubbing, setting expectations, and verifying. In this lecture, I will explain the order processing use case which you will be developing and testing in the next few lectures. The order processor application will allow a client to place an order, to cancel an order, and then to delete an order. We'll be developing a mini e-commerce application with two important layers or classes, starting with the order BO and the order DAO. The order DAO, data access object, is responsible for all the database access, and the BO object provides the business logic. The BO has three important methods: placing an order, cancelling an order, and deleting an order. And then the DAO does all the CRUD work: creation of data, reading the data, updating the data, and then deleting of data. We will not be connecting to any database. That's where mocking will come into picture, as you will see. So we'll start by creating the order DAO interface. Then we'll create a order DAO impl, but we'll not completely implement this class, just to demonstrate the power of mocking and Mockito. We will then create a order interface which will be implemented by the order BO impl, which is our main class, important class, which we will be testing using JUnit and Mockito by mocking out the order DAO. In this lecture, you will be creating the order processing service Eclipse project, and we will be coding the data access object layer. We will be coding the business object layer in the next lecture. You have the option to remain silent and download this completed project from the contents of this lecture or the next lecture and start unit testing, or you can work with me in parallel and code it from scratch. Launch the Eclipse IDE. Go to the file menu, say new Java project. Give it a name, let's call it order processing service. Click finish. It will have one source folder called SRC. So start by creating a new source folder by right clicking on the project. Source folder, call it test. It's always a good practice to create the test folder first. This is where all our tests that we'll be creating later on will go into. Right click on the SRC folder to create our data access layer objects or classes. Say new interface order DAO. Give it a package name com.bharat.order.dao. Click finish. We'll have 4 different methods here for all the CRUD operations, starting with int create. It takes the order and it returns an order ID. This order class doesn't even exist yet, but let's act as if it exists. Hit Ctrl 1 to get a quick fix menu and select the first option which says create class order. Hit finish. And in this order class, we'll add 2 simple properties, int ID and then a string status. To keep it simple, let's leave it with 2 properties. Hit Ctrl 1 on the ID. Select the third option which says create getter and setter methods for ID. Enter again. Do the same thing by pointing it to status. Hit Ctrl 1. Select the third option, enter. Ctrl Shift F to format it. Go back to the order DAO interface. We have our order now. All the exceptions, all the methods on the order DAO will throws SQL exception. Control space, select the SQL exception from java.sql. We have our first method. The second method is the read method, which returns an order by taking a int ID, the order ID. Again, this method as well throws a SQL exception. The third method is the update method. It returns an integer, update order, takes an order and updates it and returns back a successful number of rows that got updated. SQL exception. Finally, the delete method, which again returns an integer, delete, it takes the integer order ID as the parameter and it throws a SQL exception as well. We are done with our order DAO interface. Now let's create an implementation. Let's move this order into a DTO package. Go to the order, change this from DAO to DTO. It's always a good practice. Hit Ctrl 1, move order.java to a DTO package. In the order DAO, hit Ctrl 1 and import that order DTO. Now to create an order DAO impl, right click on this package, say new class. Let's call it order DAO impl. And in this interfaces section here, click on add, search for order DAO, select it, click OK and click on finish. Eclipse generates the methods and marks them with the override annotation. We will not implement any of these methods to demonstrate the power of Mockito. We will be mocking out all these methods and we'll be coming up with the order BO and BO impl and we'll be testing them. In the previous lecture, we have created the DAO layer for our order processing service. In this one, we'll create the business logic layer. To do that, right click on the SRC folder, say new interface, give it a name order BO and change the package name from DAO to BO, business object. Hit finish. In here, we'll be adding 3 simple methods, starting with place order method, which returns a boolean. Place order takes the order object, the order DTO. To import it, hit Ctrl 1. Point the cursor on the order, hit Control 1, select the first option to import the order. The second method is the cancel order method. Again, boolean cancel order. It takes the order ID, int ID, and finally a boolean delete order method, which takes a int ID as well. All these methods throw a business exception back. Instead of throwing a SQL exception or some other exception, they will wrap up those exceptions in a BO exception, which is our own custom exception. So hit Control 1. Right now this BO exception doesn't even exist. Select the first option which says create class BO exception and change the package name from BO to BO.exception. It implements or it inherits from the superclass java.lang.exception. So our exception is a checked exception. Do the same thing. We'll change this exception, BO exception, as required later on. Leave it as is for now. Go back to the order BO. Take this throws BO exception, copy it and paste it for the other two methods as well. Save your file. We have the interface ready. Now right click on the BO to implement it. Say new class order BO IMPL, and in the interfaces section click on add, search for order BO, select it, select the interface, click on OK, hit finish. We have all the three methods and their skeletons ready with the override annotations. Delete the to do comment by pointing your mouse cursor on it, hit Control D. Do the same thing for the other two methods as well, as we'll be implementing these methods. We will declare the DAO as a global object. So the order DAO, the interface, our BO impl, let's rename this to IMPL. It's not IMPLE. Hit Control 1, rename compilation unit to order BO impl. And this guy, the order BO impl, depends on the order DAO. Hit Control 1, create getters and setters so that we can inject this DAO from our tests, and also we can inject this DAO from any other layer above the BO layer. Typically we use frameworks like Spring to do this injection. Now to place an order, in here we will say DAO dot create order and pass the order to it. So this method throws a SQL exception. You have to hit Control 1, surround with try catch block. Delete this to do block again by hitting Control D. Instead of doing a e.print stack trace, we will say throw new BO exception, and we will wrap this SQL exception inside this BO exception. Save. Right now our BO exception doesn't have a constructor which accepts this E. So hit Control 1 and select the second option which says create constructor. Double click. Now we have a constructor in here. Inside this constructor, let's call super and pass in the E. That will call the exception classes constructor. Here, to get rid of this warning, it is complaining about the serialization version ID. Hit Control 1 for the quick fix. Add default serialization version ID. Remove these useless comments. Go back to our order BO impl. Assign this DAO.create to a local variable by hitting Control 1. Assign statement to a new local variable. Let's call it result. If result is equal to 0, we are going to return false. Otherwise, at the end of it, we are going to return a true. A very simple place order method. Similarly, let's implement the cancel order method. For cancel order, we have two calls that we need to make. DAO.read first by passing in the order ID. Once we read it, let's assign this to a local variable. Assign statement to a local variable by hitting Control 1. We'll get the order back. Again, we need to handle the SQL exception by surrounding it with try catch. Take this line, from the place order method, which throws a new BO exception. Paste it in here by replacing those two lines. Now we'll call the DAO dot update and we'll pass the order object to it. But in between those two lines, we will say order dot set status to cancelled. Very crude way of handling a cancellation, but again, to keep things simple, we are using a status as cancelled. And then we call the DAO dot update. Assign this to a local variable again and call it result. If result is equal to 0, we return a false, else we return true at the end. Again, this is not a great real-time logic in here, but to demonstrate the use of mocking and everything, this makes it a lot more easier. Finally, the delete method, we'll call DAO.delete. We pass in the ID, same logic again, assign it to a new local variable, call it result. Handle the exception, surround with try catch, take this throw new BO exception, replace these two lines here. If result, we are at a point where we can extract out result, this block, this if block, return false. It's no big code, so let's leave it as is instead of refactoring it. That's it, we are all set. We have implemented the three different methods, the place order, the cancel order, and the delete order methods. We'll start unit testing this by starting with place order in the next lecture. In the previous lecture, we have created the order processing service Eclipse Java project. In this one, we will add the Mockito dependencies to this Java project by downloading them from the internet so that we can start our unit testing in the next few lectures. So launch your web browser and search for Mockito, Mockito download. It will take you to the search results, wherein click on the first link which says download Mockito from Google Code. There you go. Download the all jars source and Java docs. The first option, the current version of Mockito is 1.9.5. It comes with the MIT license, which allows you to use and distribute Mockito for free. Click on that link, download the zip file. Click on this download button again. It will download the Mockito 1.9.5.zip. Once that's complete, double click on it, unzip the contents of it. If you go inside the folder, you will see several other folders as well as files, the jars info.txt, etc. Go into the separate jars. There will be different jars which you can include, or you can simply grab the Mockito all 1.9.5, which will have all the classes we need to test our Java code. And it also has the Java doc, to which I will come back in later on lectures. For now, select this Mockito all jar, Control C, go back to your Eclipse, right click on the project, say new folder, give it a name lib for libraries, hit finish, say Control V. So paste that jar into this lib folder. Then we will add this jar to our Eclipse project's class path by right clicking on the project, go to properties, go to libraries, add jars, browse to the lib folder under your project, select the Mockito all 1.9.5 jar, click OK, and then OK again. So now we have the Mockito dependencies on our project. We can use Mockito to write our JUnits. In this lecture, we will start unit testing the place order method on the order BO impl. We'll do it in two steps. In this lecture, we will set up the expectations, stub out the objects and then set up the expectations. That is, we will mock out the order DAO in our test, and then we will stub out all the method calls the place order is making onto the DAO, which is the create method. So we will set the expectations of what should happen when this create method is called on the DAO. To get started, right click on the order BO impel class, say new JUnit test case. If you don't see this option here, go to other and you will find it. Click on JUnit test case. The only thing we have to change here is this folder, source folder from SRC, change it to test, hit finish. Add the JUnit 4 library to your build path. Okay. There is our test. Rename the method of test to place order underscore should return or should create an order. Using underscores is also a good practice. Delete this line, the fail line, by hitting Ctrl D once you point your cursor to it. The very first step is to create a new order BO impel, control space, the second guy here, the class under test. Place your cursor, hit Ctrl 1, assign statement to a new local variable. Let's call it BO. Hit enter. The next important step is bo.setDAO. This is where our mocking begins. Instead of creating a new instance of DAO, let's declare the DAO order DAO as a global field. Just use the interface, no need to use the implementation, DAO, and mark it with the @mock annotation from Mockito. Hit Ctrl 1, import the mock annotation from org.mockito package. That's the important step. And for this to work at runtime, we have to do one additional step, and we'll do it in the setup method. So before annotation from the JUnit API, hit Ctrl space, import that before annotation, public void setup. In here, we have to say Mockito annotations, control space, annotations dot init mocks, and pass this reference. So at runtime, we are passing this test cases object reference to this mock annotations.init mock, so that it will scan through all the objects, and any object that is marked with @mock will be mocked out. It will create a proxy mock of this order DAO. Now we have set that mocked out object onto the order BO class. Now we have to set the expectations. To do that, expand the imports. In here you already see that we have two imports from Mockito. Let's add another import. Import static org.mockito.mockito. Again, there is a Mockito class which provides several static methods. You can say star, because we'll be using several static methods from this Mockito class, starting with, double click, maximize it, when. When is a very important method which allows us to mock out a method call. So we want to mock out on the order DAO, we want to mock out the create method, because that is the method which is internally called by the place order method. So we want this create method to do what we ask it to do. So in here we'll say DAO dot create new order. We'll create a new order object. Select this new order. Assign this to a new local variable by hitting Ctrl 1. Extract to local variable. Let's call it order. Import this order by hitting Ctrl 1. Import. When DAO.create order, two brackets, dot, then as you can see, the when triggers the whole process. When something happens or when a method is called, then you can use several methods here. I will explain the other methods later on. For now, all we need is then return, and the integer value we can say new integer, the value should be 1 because 1 is successful and 0 is failure for us. 0 means the order was not placed, and this guy here throws a exception. For now, let's add a throws block, throws a SQL exception. That's it. So we have mocked out the DAO and we have set the expectations by using the when class. When is like a trigger, and we use the then return method again to return the result which we want. In this case, we are returning a result 1, which means success, and the BO should get a 1 result back and return a true. We can also test the failure scenario later on by passing in or by returning back a 0 from the mocked out create method. We will be verifying the results in the next lecture. In the previous lecture, we have started testing our order BO impel class by using the Mockito API. We have mocked out the order DAO by using the @mock annotation from the Mockito API. We have set up the init mocks inside the JUnit setup method by marking it with @before, and also we have set up the expectations by using the static methods when and then return from the Mockito class. Now in this lecture, we will assert the results and we will verify whether the methods on this mocked out objects are really getting called. Because when we call the BO's place order method, the DAO's create order method should be called, and we have mocked out this result to return 1. So we should get a true value back from our BO. So let's first call. Let me add some lines at the end so that you can see it clearly. Let's call BO dot place order, and we'll pass in the order object which we have already created, and we are using that order object and we set the expectations as well. Control 1. We are not testing this for exceptions, so let's add a throws class in here. We are testing the positive scenario in here. Assign this to a local variable and call it result. We'll use the assert true from the JUnit assert statements, the static assert statements, RESULT, the result. So we are asserting that the result is true. Now to run this test, go to this play button here, run as JUnit test. So we are all good. Our test is green. That means our mocks are working beautifully. Now let's verify that our mocked out method is really getting called. It is, otherwise our test would have failed, but let's make sure it is getting called. Let's use the verify method available again on the Mockito class. This is a static method. Verify DAO dot create order. By default, this method verifies that the method that we are asking it to verify is called once. Right click on the class, go to run as JUnit test. There we go. It's all green. That means the create method on the DAO is indeed getting called when we are calling the BO.place order. So we have successfully demonstrated how to use mocking in unit testing. We have first stubbed out the class or the dependency, then we have set up the expectations, and then we have verified the results as well. This verify call can be used for multiple times. Not by default it verifies if it's single time, but it can be used for multiple times. I will show that in lectures later on. In this lecture, we are this order method for a negative scenario, wherein in the order BO impel, we are going to stub out the DAO.create in such a way that it will return a result which is 0, and our place order then should return a false value instead of true. That is what we are going to verify and assert for. So let's go back to our order BO impel test, double click on it. We can reuse this existing test. So take the complete test code, copy it, paste it, rename this method to place order should create. From should create, let's make it should not create an order. Everything else remains the same. Here, when we are stubbing it out, when DAO.create order then return, instead of new integer 1, we will be returning a 0 value. So we have stubbed out and returning a 0 value. Then our place order on the BO should return false instead of true. So here, instead of true, we are going to use JUnit's assert false. Let me push it up by adding some new lines at the end. So assert false. Verify still remains the same. We still want to verify that the DAO's create method is indeed getting called when we call BO.placeOrder. All we are asserting for is assert false the result. That's the only thing that changed. Here, if you notice, we have some code repeating. So we can refactor that, or we can move this instantiation piece and setting the mock object onto the BO into our setup method. So select that whole thing, hold the Alt button, move it up, press the up arrow. So we can place it in the setup method right after we call the init mocks. And then we can convert this BO by hitting Ctrl 1, convert local variable to field. And then we can delete these two lines from the second test method. So we are reusing the class under test by making it a field, and then we are instantiating it inside the setup method, and we are also setting the mocked out DAO within the setup method. So let's run our test real quick by right clicking, go to run as JUnit test. So everything is in green, so we are good. We have also tested for the negative scenario wherein we have stubbed out the DAO to return a 0, and then we made sure that our BO is indeed behaving as expected. It is returning false when the DAO.create returns a 0 value. So far we have tested our BO for a positive scenario and a negative scenario. So we will be testing the place order for an exception scenario in this lecture. That is, in the BO impl, if the DAO.create method throws a SQL exception, we or our place order should wrap it up inside a BO exception and throw a BO exception back. That is the behavior which we are going to test it for. We'll be using the power of JUnit as well as Mockito. Go back to the test, copy one of the test methods, paste it. Let me enter some lines so that you can easily see it. And instead of place order should not create an order, we'll simply say place order should throw BO exception. So it should throw a BO exception. That is what we are testing it for. And in here we'll be using, instead of then return when DAO.create order, we are going to stub it for then control space. We'll be using then throw. In here we can specify what exception should be thrown. So remove everything else. Then throw SQL control space SQL exception dot class. You can ignore the warning. So we are stubbing it out so that our DAO's create method will throw a SQL exception. We are not going to assert or verify for anything in this case. You can remove those two lines because an exception is being thrown. And here on the test annotation, we'll use the expected attribute, which you have learned from the JUnit section. And the exception we are expecting is BO exception dot class. So that's simple. So we have stubbed out the DAO to throw a SQL exception, and we are using the expected attribute on the test annotation to ensure that we are getting a BO exception back when we call the BO.place order. Run it by going to the play button here, run as JUnit test. Everything is green. It's that simple to test a exception scenario. We can use the then throw method available in the Mockito API instead of then return, and we can tell whatever exception should be thrown. In this lecture, we will be testing the cancel order method on the order BO impl class. The cancel order method takes the order ID and then it calls the DAO's read method to get the order, takes the order, updates the status of it to cancelled, and then it sends that order to the update method on the DAO. So it calls two methods on the DAO which we need to stub and set the expectations for. So go back to our test class. We'll be adding a new test method here for the cancel order. So in here, let's use the JUnit's test annotation, public void cancel order underscore should underscore cancel the order. In here, the first thing we'll be doing is stubbing it out when DAO dot read method is called. Give it an order ID 1, 2, 3 dot, then return new order. So we're stubbing out the read to return a new order object back. DAO.read throws a SQL exception. Hit Control 1 on it. Add a throws declaration for the SQL exception. Extract this order by selecting it, hitting Control 1. Extract to local variable. Let's call it order instead of value. The second thing we are going to stub out is the update method. When DAO.update is called with this order object which we have already here, dot, then return an integer value of 1. So we have the expectations set here. Now we can call the BO dot cancel order, pass it 1, 2, 3. Hit Control 1, add a throws class for our BO exception. Assign this to a local variable. Assign statement to a new local variable. Call it result. Now we can assert this result, assert true result. And also we can verify to see if the DAO dot read 1, 2, 3 is called, and also we can verify DAO dot update order is called. So we have stubbed out, set up the expectations, called the method under test, and then we have asserted and verified the results. Let's run it and see if we have done a good job. Right click, run as JUnit test. So everything is green. So we have done a great job of setting the expectations. So the same order which we are reading, or we have stubbed when reading, we are using that when we are updating. We are also making sure that that same order object is being used when the update is called as well. And also we have asserted that the result that comes back from cancel order is true. In this lecture, we will test the cancel order method for the negative scenario wherein the update method should return a 0 value, and then the result that comes back from cancel order should be false instead of true. So let's do that in easy steps. We can copy this entire test case because we have already stubbed out what we need in here. We just need to change some values. So cancel order should not cancel the order. So change the method to that. And in here, when we are stubbing out the update method on the DAO, change the value from 1 to 0. That's all we need to do. And here, instead of assert true, we will do a assert false on the JUnit library. Everything else remains the same. Still the read method should be called, the update method should be called. We have to verify for that. Right click, or we can go to the play button, run as JUnit test. Everything is green. So we have simply tested our cancel order method for the negative scenario by changing the return value from 1 to 0 and asserting for false instead of true. In this lecture, we will test the cancel order method for the exception scenarios. That is, we will check if the read method on the DAO, if it throws an SQL exception, our cancel order method on the BO is actually throwing a BO exception. That's the first check. And then secondly, we will also check if the update method throws a SQL exception, then our cancel order method is again throwing a BO exception. Two scenarios there. So copy this test method. Actually, our test code will be very simple in this case. We'll be deleting a lot of lines from this code. Cancel order should throw a BO exception on read, on DAO read actually. So in here, we'll stub out when DAO.read 1, 2, 3. Instead of then return, we'll say then throw a SQL exception dot class. We'll remove this order at the end. We don't need this order line in here. We don't need this order. We don't need this update. And we don't need any of these asserts and verifies. It's just a two-line method. We don't even have to assign this bo.cancel order to a result because we are not going to assert for the result. All we are going to do is use the expected attribute on the test annotation, and we are going to see if a bo control space exception dot class is coming back. So all we have done is thrown a SQL exception when the read method on the DO is called, and we are making sure that the BO wraps it up inside a business exception and it throws it back. So let's run this, and everything is green. In this lecture, we will test one last exceptional scenario for the cancel order method. So we can grab the entire test method here. There is a reason why I am not copying this test method, but I am copying the cancel order from earlier. We need the full method because name this method cancel order should throw a BO exception on update. Should underscore throw underscore the underscore BO exception on update, the DAO update. So here we have to leave these two lines as is because the read should happen before the update, and the update we are going to set the expectations. Instead of then return, it will be this thing here. You can copy then throw SQL exception and replace this entire return from here. Then, and we need not assign the result, and we can take out the asserts and verifications like we have done before, and we'll use the expected attribute is equal to BO exception dot class. That's it. Run it again by clicking on the play button. Everything is green. So we have simply stubbed out the read method to return a valid order back, and then we have thrown an exception when the update method gets called. We have stubbed out the update call to throw an exception, and our cancel order method is wrapping the SQL exception that comes back inside a BO exception by catching it, and it throws a BO exception back as expected. Test coverage or code coverage is the number of lines of our source code that is tested when our unit tests are run against the source code. This includes conditional statements, looping statements, the number of parameters that we pass into a method, the type of parameters we pass into a method, and everything that has to do with our source code. We measure code coverage using tools. These tools run our tests against the source code and will give us the percentage of code coverage, and will also show us which lines of source code are tested, which lines are not tested, and which need more testing. For example, here is a if-else block wherein we do a money transfer if there is money in the account, and we will throw an exception if there is no sufficient funds. If for some reason we have only tested the if portion, and because of our laziness we didn't test the else portion of it, we didn't write a unit test method for this else portion, then when we run the test coverage tools, they will pinpoint as to show that this particular piece is tested. It will show this piece in green and it will show this piece in red because it scans through our code. As the tests are run, it will look at which lines of source code are being executed and which are not being executed. Kind of analyzes our code at runtime. There are several open source tools starting with Eclipse Emma, which uses the Jacoco open source library. Kobayatsura is another famous open source tool that measures unit test coverage. Then we have JTest as well. All these tools can be easily integrated into our continuous integration and build process. For example, we can integrate it with Jenkins, and we can easily make them a part of our build process like Maven and or Ant builds. These build tools, at the end of it, when they use these tools internally, they will generate beautiful reports of code coverage, which can be published onto Jenkins dashboard or any other build tool or continuous integration tools dashboard. And our management and architects can log in and see how much test coverage we are maintaining on each of our projects, or how good we are writing our unit tests. These tools also provide plugins for various IDEs. In the next lecture, we will be installing the Eclipse EMMA or ECL EMMA code coverage plugin in Eclipse, and we will be measuring test coverage using ECL EMMA. In this lecture, you will install the ECL EMMA code coverage plugin for Eclipse. To do that, launch the Eclipse IDE, go to the Help menu and click on Eclipse Marketplace. Once you click on it, you will see a pop-up similar to this. In the search text box, type in ECL EMMA and click the Go button. You will see the search results similar to this. You will find the open source free ECL EMMA Java code coverage plugin for Eclipse. The current version is 2.3.2. Click on install. I have done this search prior to this lecture just to save us some time, as it does this search over the internet. Click on install. By default, these two options are selected. Leave them as is. Hit the confirm button. Select the or accept the license agreement by selecting the radio button and hit finish. That will download the software or the plugin over the internet and install it into Eclipse. Once done, it will ask you for the plugin to take effect, you need to restart Eclipse. Select yes. Once we have Eclipse back up, once we choose the workspace, we should have the plugin installed and we should be good to go. We'll check that in a second. So if you go to any of your projects in the Eclipse workspace, if you right click on any of the folders, along with the other options, run as option, you also see a coverage as option. So this comes from the ECL EMMA code coverage plugin. You will see all this in action in the next few lectures. In this lecture, we will learn how easy it is to measure the code coverage or the test coverage for our Java projects using the ECL EMMA code coverage plugin. To do that, launch the Eclipse IDE, go to our order processing service project, right click on the test package or the test source folder, go to coverage as and click on JUnit test. So that will run the ECL EMMA code coverage plugin and it will run our tests. As you can see, all our tests are green. While it runs our tests, it also analyzes our source code at runtime to see which parts of our source code are being tested or which parts of our source code or which lines in our source code are being run. And it generates a beautiful report here under the coverage tab. If you expand that, let me drag it a little. As you can see, it has different columns: coverage in percentage, covered instructions, that is the number of lines that are covered by our tests, missing instructions, and then the total number of instructions. We don't really care about the tests themselves. That is not what we should look at. We should look at the source folder and go to our BO class, because that is what we have written tests for. This is the class we have written tests for. Eclipse EMMA, ECL EMMA highlights all the instructions that are covered by our tests in green. So all the beautiful greenery there is because we have run some good tests covering the place order method as well as the cancel order method. If you scroll it down, you will see all the bad reds. This is because we haven't written any test method for the delete order method or the get DAO. We didn't use the get DAO at all. So we can easily remove that method. It's a good point, or a good that it highlighted. We can remove this method and we can add a test method for the delete order in the next lecture, so that all this will also be green. So it shows us the percentage of test coverage. As you can see here, the order BO impel has 71% of coverage. Once we cover the delete order, it will become 100%. And as you can see, the DAO, it has 0% coverage because our DAO is not even completely implemented and we haven't tested it at all. That is why it is all red and it has 0% coverage. The DTOs, it's okay. It has 41% coverage because we are not calling the getter methods, or we are not using the getter methods at all, and some of the setter methods as well. Finally, the exception has 100% coverage. We have done a good job there as well. So it's that simple to run ECL EMMA code coverage plugin to see how much of our source code is being tested. Simply, you can right click on the test source folder itself, or you can run individual tests by right clicking and go to coverage and then say JUnit test, and it will generate a beautiful report for us. In the last lecture, you have seen that our order processing services BO layer, which we are testing, has 71% of coverage, which is good, but we have to improve it. At least 80 to 90% is a good test coverage, if not 100%. So let's improve the test coverage by writing a test for this delete order method. We have left this on purpose so that we can see how test coverage works. So go back to our order BO impel test and start writing a test for our delete order method. In here, we'll start with the JUnit test annotation, public void delete order deletes the underscore order. The first step we'll be doing here is when DAO dot delete 123 dot then return 1. We are testing the positive scenario to start with. This delete throws a SQL exception, so add a throws declaration by hitting Ctrl 1. The next step is to call the BO dot delete order and pass it 123. We have been using this 123 in quite a few places, so let's refactor it. Select that 123, right click, go to refactor, extract constant, and give it a name. Let's call it order underscore ID. Hit finish. If it doesn't replace it everywhere, copy that order ID, paste it everywhere. We have 1, 2, 3. You shouldn't have any magic numbers. The delete order throws a BO exception, so hit Ctrl 1 on the delete order, surround it with or add the throws declaration. We are done stubbing and calling the method. Let's assign this to a local variable. Call it result, and then assert true result, and also verify DAO dot delete is called with order ID. That's it. Run it. Go to the play button. Run as JUnit test. So all our tests are green. Now let's rerun the coverage one more time by right clicking on the test folder. Go to coverage as JUnit test. Let's see if our coverage has gone up. If you see the BO folder in here, you see that the coverage has gone up from 71% to 84.1%. As an assignment, okay, please go ahead and bring the coverage to 100% by writing a test for the negative scenario as well as the exception scenario. In this lecture, we will learn a few more ways to use the verify method to make sure that the methods on the mocked out object are getting called. You have already seen the verify in action, wherein by default, if you go to this first test method, the place order test, we are verifying that the create order or the create method on the DAO is getting called. By default, this verify checks if this method is getting called once, but the verify method has overloaded versions, comma, control space. As you can see, the second overloaded or the overloaded version of verify will allow us to pass in a verification mode. This is an interface, and there are multiple methods using which we can get an implementation of this. The first way to get it is times. We can say there is a times method available on the Mockito object here, Mockito class here. It is a static method available on the Mockito class. So we can say times and the number of times we want this method to be called. By default, it is 1 anyway, but I am using 1 again. So let's run this test. Run as JUnit test. Everything is green. Now if I change this to 2, Save. So I'm saying the create method should be called twice when we call the place order method, which is wrong. So let's try running this unit test again. As you can see, the test fails and it says too little actual invocations. So we are expecting too many invocations, but there are too little actual invocations. That's the error message. The other methods that are available are at least, very similar to times. At least make sure that at least this method is called these many times. So we can pass in whatever number we want, 2, 3. Again, this test should fail because we are saying at least twice. If I pass in 1, save it, run it, this test will pass again. So the verification mode allows us to verify in a different way. We can tell how many times this method should be invoked. By default, it is 1. There are other verification modes that are available. You can refer to the Mockito documentation. So far, while we are stubbing out our method calls using the when method, or when we are verifying the method calls on the mocked out object, we have been passing the exact object type. For example, we have been creating the order instance and passing that in. In case of primitive types, for example, when we are cancelling the order, we have been passing the value 1, 2, 3 for the order ID. Instead of this, Mockito gives us a matcher API, which makes our job a lot more easier. So when we are stubbing out, for example, if you scroll it down a little to one of the cancel methods, wherever we are passing the order ID, instead of this order ID, I can simply say any control space. There are so many matcher methods that are available from the Mockito's matchers class. All these are static methods. In our case, I need the any int because the data type we have to pass in is integer. So I can simply say any int. And if I run our methods, everything still works. Everything is still green. So it's a convenient way to use the matchers and to make sure that the values that we are passing in are of the exact type. And it's also easy for us. We need not create the entire object. For example, in case of order, let's go back to the place order method, the very first test we have written, or one of the place orders method. Instead of creating this instance of the object, I can simply say, when I'm stubbing out the DAO.create, I can say any, and the any method takes a class name or the class instance. You can say order dot, not the instance, order dot class. We have to tell it which class it should be used for the any matcher. Run my test again. It still works. So it has stubbed out for any order. So if the DAO's create method is called with any order, it will still work. It doesn't matter. So here the order that is being passed is this, but the Mockito API doesn't care because we have used the matcher and we have told it as long as some order comes into the create method, then return a new integer. There are several matcher methods available like this, any int, any long, etc. Easy reference is go to the Mockito download, your downloads, Mockito, go to the Java doc, open the index.html, scroll it down all the way on the left side, scroll down to the matchers class. In here, click on matchers and again scroll it down all the way to the bottom and you will find several useful methods here, any boolean, any byte. So play around with these methods, and if you have any questions, you can always ask me.